You're listening to Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love. After infidelity or betrayal. Have you been betrayed by life, your body, or someone that you love? You're not alone. No matter what you've been through, Naked Self-Worth helps you regain confidence, joy, and enthusiasm so you can create a life you love and flourish. Tune in weekly and learn how.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you been struggling lately? Relationship issues impact every area of your life. When I found out about my husband's infidelity, I was so devastated. I could barely function. Sleeping was impossible because I couldn't shut off my brain. Eating was a challenge because I felt nauseous all the time, and for the first month or so, everything felt pointless. Whether you're having trouble sleeping, feeling hopeless, or just can't focus, BetterHelp is here to help you. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help. You can talk to your therapist in a private online environment at your convenience. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's 20,000 plus therapist network that gives you access to help that might not be available in your area. Just fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll be matched with a therapist in under 24 hours. And then you can schedule secure video and phone sessions. Plus, you can exchange unlimited messages, and everything you share is completely confidential. I know that confidentiality was important for me, especially early on when I couldn't even get my own mind wrapped around what was happening. And it was so comforting to be able to speak with someone candidly about everything I was going through, to validate that what I was feeling and experiencing was completely normal. You can request a new therapist at no additional charge anytime. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Special offer to Flaunt. Create a life you love after infidelity and betrayal listeners. You get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/flaunt. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/flaunt, FLAUNT. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. Hello and welcome to Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. I'm Lora Cheadle, and this is going to be a really fun yet very deep show. Our guest today is Jolie. She is the author of Empowered, Sexy, and Free. Discover your unique brilliance and dare to be the creatrix of your own life. We will get into a little bit more about who she is and what she does. But what I want you to know, what I want you to remember is no matter how bad you feel right now, and trust me, I know how bad you feel right now because I have been there too. There is hope. There is fun. There is empowerment, sexiness, and freedom on the other side of the infidelity journey. And Jolie can help you to get there. So welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Let's start a little bit with who you are and what you do for women.
Oh, I'm a seeker on the spiritual path. I am a very creative, multi-hyphenated woman, and my spiritual journey, my personal development journey blossomed into entrepreneurship because I couldn't not share what I was learning with other people. So I have a background in sales and marketing. I've been in sales and marketing for over 15 years, and I support service-based businesses like coaches and consultants and healers of all kinds and light workers, how to come out online, brand themselves, build their online schools, and I teach specifically sales and conversion.
That sounds good. I love that you really have the ability from what I know about you from reading your book to marry all the practical stuff with all of the emotional, juicy goodness stuff. And I know a lot of the women here listening to my show don't feel very empowered. They definitely don't feel very sexy, and they don't feel free because they have been through a pretty painful journey, obviously. I also know that you use a lot of journaling to help yourself and to help your women heal. Can you talk a little bit about what it means to be empowered, sexy, and free, and then how journaling can kind of facilitate that process?
Yes. Yeah, I just really want to speak directly to the woman who's listening right now, where life may have flipped you sideways. I know this podcast is all about healing and finding empowerment through a major trauma in your life, something like infidelity, or maybe something else is going on for you, just heartbreak or a life transition. And I'm a 33-year-old woman who's had 33 years of experience of life on this planet. And I'm also somebody who has made a beautiful story out of their lives, out of what was the beginnings of a very sad story. And Empowered, Sexy, and Free is a very candid expression from my soul where I lay out my story in just a really beautifully authentic way, because I know that when we are seen in pain, we can heal. And when I was 20 years old, something flipped me sideways where the entirety of my life was just different in a moment. And I'm still integrating that time of my life where it was seemingly like a snap of a finger, and this dark nightmare seemed to come over my life, which was at 20 years old. After losing a very large sum of money, my dad made the very permanent decision to end his life. And I was really at peace with him leaving. He had created a lot of destruction around him. And while he was an incredible man, an incredible stand-up father, an incredible provider, he had severe mental health issues from being a Vietnam veteran. And the last year of his life was incredibly challenging for me as he began to slip away from this reality and lose touch with mental health and created a lot of destruction. And when he left, there was a tremendous mess for me to clean up as a 20-year-old, and including my mother, who had been dealing with addiction issues. And I became a caretaker. I became like a head of a family in a way. And there was just such a loss of innocence at that age for me. And Empowered, Sexy, and Free, it's just this, I only know what it feels like to be empowered because I know the depths of being disempowered. And I only know the glimpses of what sexy feels like because I felt so dirty and used and not sexy. And I only know what freedom feels like because I also know what it feels like to be severely trapped. And so while this book may be this beautiful, light, colorful branding with this floral essence on it, it's really a journey into the shadow and into the depths of your humanity and your realness. And it's an invitation to have a very candid conversation around life, because we've been through things as women together. I know you have your own story, Lora, and I just admire so much a woman who's willing to have herself be seen in her story and be witnessed in her pain, because that's how we grow and that's how we heal. And one of the practices in the book that you mentioned was journaling. I just felt like there were times in my life where my mind was spinning out, like my mind was moving so fast and trying to process my life and trying to understand my reality. And I found, for me, because of how active my brain was, that organizing my thoughts through a journal was a profound experience of healing. It was an opportunity to be alone, contemplative in my thoughts, to be deeply connected to myself, and then to also track the way that I was changing and growing. So I would put a prayer list together and then come back and start to notice and track, hey, these things are actually happening for me. My life is getting better. I am growing. I am discovering who I am. And I kind of break down 10 ideas in the book around journaling because I'm such a believer in that self-processing ritual.
Yeah. You've said some things that I really appreciate and that I want to go back to. First, that you were still integrating some of the trauma from the flip in your life. And that's been a while.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to stay there for a moment, because I think so often people will pick up a book like your book or a book like my book, like you said, that looks beautiful, mine's sparkly, yours is floral. It's like, yay, sexy, free, happy. This is good. But the reality is growth is a process. And like you were saying, journaling helps you track the process, and it takes time. And you can be making small steps along the way to healing, which is important to know. But it's also not like, bam, a light switch will be flipped and everything's okay and I'm totally at peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that moment. It feels tender to share that, because I actually just had a healing session last night. I'm like, here we go again, an event from 13 years ago that I still get to love myself around. So here's the deal. Anything that happens to us when our brain is developing, especially big and massive trauma, we get to be really patient with the healing process. So ages 0 to 21, this is something I track the development of the brain. I was like, life, my brain was almost done developing at age 20. It was like 21, 6 months later. Not that it makes probably that much of a difference, but these massive events that happen in our lives and in the building blocks of our psyche in childhood really do take extra care and extra love. And it's always that inner little one inside of us that feels hurt the most. And I imagine that somebody going through infidelity or going through a breakup or going through some matters of the heart, it's their inner little one that feels rejected. It's their inner little one that feels not seen and not heard and not understood and not good enough. And so the patience that I've had, Lora, over the years of my inner child journey, because I also grew up in a home around a lot of addiction, and I parented myself a lot. I learned to cook for myself very young. I was home alone a lot. This was the 90s when things were a little bit different. I did all my own homework by myself and self-guided television and self-guided my own entertainment. And yeah, there's a little one in me that wants me to pay attention and wants me to be aware of her concern and her fear that she doesn't matter, and that nobody's watching and nobody's paying attention, and that her successes don't matter. And so during this healing session, the trauma around my dad was around the 2008 economic collapse. So this big financial thing is happening in America. Middle-class families are hit. And oh my gosh, it's been so interesting going through kind of this pandemic and this talks of recession and this talks of inflation, and just how many times my nervous system has gotten very activated because I'm bracing for what was my world at the time, truly was my world, and my sense of stability and home really came crumbling down. So there's patience in the journey, and I get to love myself through it. And if it wants to come back up again, and there's more layers of healing and there's more layers of love there, I'm not saying that I'm patient all the time. Sometimes it is frustrating. Like, we've moved on, right? It's been 13 years. How many hours of therapy, how many medicine journeys, how many times have I cried about this one? And there's still a part of me that is holding on to a fear. And if I want the ultimate freedom in my life, I must be willing to meet those parts of myself.
Yeah. And that is so hard sometimes. But I love how you said, how you described what's going on in the world now is reminiscent of what was going on then, because that is very similar to the infidelity journey. Holidays, anniversaries, events that come up take us back to that triggered space. And it might take a while. It might take years and years and years of journaling. But the thing is, on the anniversary of the event, year 1, it's going to be harder than it will be the anniversary of the event year 2, year 3, year 4. And that's what I really appreciated and loved about in your book, how you have the different journaling exercises. Like you have, a money journaling exercise. You've got all these different journaling exercises. So it can kind of hit at different places in your heart, in your psyche, in your life. Because when a trauma happens, like the women of this show, okay, we have been cheated on by our spouses, but that brings up, like you said, the time when dad didn't show up and he said he was supposed to. It brings up the time when we heard, mom say X, Y, or Z. That time in high school when our boyfriend left us. That time when our best friend said, nobody's ever going to love you. It brings up all of these places in our past, in our bodies, in our hearts, where we've been rejected or abandoned or wounded before. And then suddenly we're not just dealing with one trauma, the infidelity trauma. Suddenly we're dealing with 50 other little traumas that we might not have even known were there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You just nailed it. Because that's how this life and this human experience is. It's like, oh, the teachers and the lessons come up, they hit you, they flip you sideways, and it's more than just the event. It's every part of us that is unhealed is coming to the surface. Every part of us that doesn't feel like enough, that doesn't feel chosen, that doesn't feel loved, is being activated in this event that may happen in life. So yeah, it's a gift in disguise. I know that can be really annoying when somebody's in pain to wrap it in that kind of language of this is a gift. And hear me out. You're willing to step back and really see, wow, life set me up with a gigantic invitation for me to heal, to know myself, to love myself, to go back into the past, to ask myself, why did I attract such a thing in my life? Like, why was this on my path and on my journey? Because what I couldn't see at the time that I can see now is, holy shit, what a gift it was to have gone through that trauma, because what I have created in the world around money and prosperity and setting others free to the tune of supporting thousands of people a year and having the #1 prosperity meditation on the internet and writing books and supporting people because there's this burning passion within me, because I know what it feels like to be in pain and scarcity. That's a great gift that I could have never seen at the time. It was just poor me. I am a daughter whose father chose not to be on the planet and left a gigantic mess. But what I could see now is what a gift that I got to mature the way that I was able to mature at 20 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the way you know what it feels like to be empowered, sexy, and free is because you didn't feel empowered, you didn't feel sexy, and you didn't feel free. And it's only from understanding that point of contrast, this is not what I want, that you were able to lean into, and this is what I want. I want prosperity. I want peace. I want empowerment. Mm-hmm. So how do you define empowerment?
To be empowered is to have the emergent feeling of being able to choose your life, spontaneous choice. And oftentimes we think we're choosing, but there's so many mental constructs where we're not actually the one that has the power. And power is freedom of choice. So do I have the power? Do I feel like I have the power to create the reality that I want around me? Do I have the power to turn on joy? Do I have the power to access pleasure? Do I have the power to create a financial reality that is inspiring to me? And small choices, like it really does take time and energy to set up something like this, but small choices and consistency day after day of like, what's the next most loving thing? What's the next most loving thing? Then all of a sudden you're not living for other people and making mom and dad happy or making spouse happy or making the world happy or overgiving to the point of martyrdom, but you're really self-resourced in such a way that power emanates, that sense of self emanates from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said something about like, what is the next most loving thing I can do for myself? Say more about that, because when we are in the depths of victimhood, it's really hard sometimes to just ask ourselves that question.
Yeah. You know, Laura, it reminds me of my last breakup. And I had tried to end a relationship in December. This was a couple of years ago. And we didn't actually end it until June. And those 6 months from December till June, like how much self-betrayal and self-abandonment and just poor choices. Like I ended up gaining weight. I ended up not seeing my friends. Like it was such a path of destruction because all I could see was, I want this love. I want this love and I want this safety, and I can't imagine my life without it. And a lack of trust in myself that I could receive that or somebody could love me that much. And I think back to the moments where I actually had the bravery to end the relationship. And I ended the relationship in the same kind of moments that I decided to go nomadic and clear a 3-story house in Santa Monica. I had it completely built out as a film set recording studio, gifted everything that I had to people who needed it more than I did, and left that house single and with a suitcase. And I moved to Mexico. And this was like early pandemic days when everything was just kind of bananas. And I went on like a little mental health checkout, like, I'm going to do what's right for me. And I'm just going to go to the jungle for a little while and just get some perspective. And so I went to the Yucatan and the southern regions of Mexico, down in Playa del Carmen and Tulum. And I brushed up on my college Spanish. And I remember meeting myself. Oh, I have chills. Meeting myself in this villa that I'd rented, and it was the first night and I was alone. And I was like, this was the thing that I was so scared of right here, to be alone, to not have somebody holding me falling asleep, to not have somebody saying goodnight to. And how much can I love myself in this moment? Oh my gosh, I just feel this overwhelming sense of pride. Like, thank you for doing that work, Jolie, because my life is so much better. But it was one day at a time. It was even one moment at a time. Like, right now I'm going to make a bath, and I'm going to actually go out to the farmer's market, and I am going to buy these beautiful bath salts because I've got me in mind, and I'm going to love myself up, and I'm going to cook myself dinner, and I'm going to listen to inspiring podcasts. I'm going to start feeding my brain with all of this evidence of how loved and treasured and adored I am on this planet. And even if there's nobody to say goodnight to right now, I've got me. And I just had to retrain myself that I can be self-sourced and loved. And I can reach out to friends for love, and I can tell my best friend goodnight. And everything that I was so scared of, the being alone, was the thing that was nurturing me deeply. And so what's the next best loving choice? And sometimes, like, leaving a relationship, or initiating a conversation to make change in your relationship. But the thing that we're most scared of is losing love. It's like the deepest, most embedded thing into the human psyche, the deepest fear in all of us. I believe it to be that I'm not loved, because to not be loved is to not exist. And love is the essence. I mean, if a baby is not loved, there will be severe damage. If a baby is not held, there will be severe, irrevocable damage on that baby. And we need it. We need love. And we sometimes forget and can lose ourselves in relationships with how to be self-sourced. Yeah. So I think of that woman who was single intentionally for 2 years because I had really broken trust in myself. I'm like, how could I have been treated like that? And like, I created that. I'm not a victim to that. I was at 100% at source for what I was allowing to have around me. And there was some toxicity and things that I would never post online, and things that I would never want people to see about my private life. But it really took time, day after day after day, meeting myself and meeting the fear of the thing that I had feared most, which was to be alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just thank you for sharing that there's some really bad stuff that happens. There's some really toxic stuff that happens to all of us personally. And we get so afraid that, oh my gosh, I can't tell somebody because then somebody might think that I allowed this to happen. And then somebody's going to think poorly of me. And then somebody's going to think blah, 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 blah. There is so much fear and shame around what we have had happen in relationships and how we have abandoned ourselves. And I think it's really important and really valuable when people like you speak up, just so everybody can know, you know what? We've all been there. We have all had moments that we're not proud of. We have all let people get by with too much. We've all been afraid to meet ourselves. We're all afraid of losing love. Mm-hmm. And it's still all okay.
So beautifully said. I feel so touched by that. Yeah, like we can just be so raw and real about the human experience right now. Just like, I know what that feels like. I imagine people listening are just receiving these words as such medicine, because sometimes we think that our experience is an isolated one. Mm-hmm. And like, but you don't understand. I'll be alone on the couch at night, or whatever the greatest fear is. Like, my person's not listening to me, or like the pain of what I've been through in this relationship. And it's like, the only thing that you have control of in this reality is yourself. You can't control another person. And so knowing that, okay, I have sovereignty over this vessel. I get to make choices around what I put into this vessel, how I feed this vessel, how I move this vessel. And I'm going to get stronger every single day because what I pour into my being, it's going to fuel me with the same reciprocity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you wouldn't believe how many people say to me, well, you would believe it. I don't know if I should leave my partner after the infidelity. I would if I knew that I would find someone to love, but I would stay if I knew that I wouldn't find someone to love. And it's like, oh my gosh, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, nothing's guaranteed.
I feel so protective over the person that's like, well, what are my options? You know, like, am I going to just be alone?
Yeah. And it's okay. It is all okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to work it out. It's okay to leave. It's okay to find new love, and it's okay not to find new love as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's move into sexy, because you and I both use that word a lot. My book is about flaunting your smart, sexy, and spiritual self. Yours is about being empowered, sexy, and free. And I think there's a lot of fear and misconception around that word, that we're somehow like unchaste if we're sexy, or if we're sexy, we're desperate for love. And I just was curious your take on the word sexy and what it means to you to truly feel sexy and be sexy.
Oh my gosh. Such a deep question. I would love to unpack this. You know, the deepest wound that I've had with my body is just not feeling enough. During my formative years, had gained a lot of weight. So I was probably like a 20 pounds overweight, fluffy kid. And it really had me relate to myself as the not cute one, the not desired one, the not picked one, the not athletic one. And so when I developed and I kind of came into my body and lost the baby weight and was being noticed for being cute or whatever, externally attractive, I just couldn't receive that. I just couldn't take that in. I never felt like I was cute or beautiful, and was really hard on myself. So my inner self-talk was, my body doesn't look like theirs. I'm not good enough and I'm not desired. I also have like a non-traditional body shape. Like, I have very athletic legs and I tend to hold my weight like more in my chest and my belly. So I always felt like not proportional, that clothes don't fit me like other girls do. And I have to be really mindful about my weight so that my proportions stay tight and lean, because if I'm in my world, I had a very unforgiving body. Like, I'm like, can this please go to my ass if I eat a donut and not to my belly? Whereas other girls are just getting like curvy and voluptuous. And I just felt like it's going to the wrong places. Mom, why? Why did I get passed down this unforgiving body? And now I feel very grateful to the body that I have. And it took a lot of inner work around knowing that I was beautiful, and not from an external trying to prove myself to anybody, but feeling beautiful, feeling in my body. And one of the practices that's helped me so much is dance, because it was the thing that I didn't want to do and the thing that I felt the most awkward around. It's like school dances or going out with friends. And when it's time to like do that thing where we're moving our bodies, I'm just like stiff and would much rather be like at the bar having a drink. And especially lately, I actually recently installed a dancing pole in my living room. Perfect. And being in sensual movement and loving my body and loving my curves and loving the imperfections. It's sexy is such an energy.
Yeah.
It is such a way of being. And you can see it in people, the way that they carry their energy, the way it's really about the way that they love themselves. And I have such a, unique, but maybe not so unique sexual journey in the fact that I just started drinking really young. Started drinking young at 13. And that combination of just being pent up and rebelling against my religion and being told sex was just for marriage, and also being like plastered a lot of times in my life at parties and not being healthy to my body, that combination had me being in lots of situations, like not even being able, I couldn't even count the situations where things happened where I wasn't a full yes to it. And I didn't even know what my yes and my no was. I didn't even know what a consent conversation was. And I didn't have that respect for my body. So lots of disrespectful situations were showing up around me. So I had by my mid-20s, I felt like I am just a not valued woman. I'm not worthy. I'm not wife material. And I got to do a lot of healing on that and on myself, just releasing the past and forgiving myself and knowing that I only had the education that I had and getting to make new choices for the future. And I just even just having the opportunity to speak about it in this moment makes me realize how far I've come and how devoted I am and clear in ritual I am with my sensual energy and how precious it is to me and how just genuinely sexy I do feel at this stage of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because, I'm in my mid 50s and I feel sexier now with a post-menopause body, with all of that stuff, not being traditionally, traditionally beautiful, not having the traditional body. I'm with you. I feel sexier now because of my energy, and that sexiness really is about how we flow and how we feel. And I also really love that you kind of went there with respecting your body, because again, so often we get locked into that headspace belief that being sexy is one thing, one look, one age, one size, and one condition. And it's really not. It's really not. So many of the listeners to this show feel when they find out that their partner has had an affair, instantly, instead of looking at their partner's wounds that led to that behavior, that led to that wounding, that led to those choices, they internalize and they say, it's because I'm not sexy. It's because I'm not pretty. It's because I've been busy in life. I've been taking care of kids. I've been working full time. I haven't had time to work out, whatever it is. And sexy is such a trigger because on the one hand, they don't feel sexy. But then on the other hand, they want to defend. And I shouldn't have to be sexy because I'm working hard and blah, 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 blah. And yet inside, there's also a longing to be the pretty one, to be the chosen one, to be beautiful. What do you think women might be able to do to start feeling sexy again, to start calming down some of those triggers and to feel sexy?
Yeah, to the woman who's had a big surprising event in her life, I would say the first step is to not take that infidelity personally. And it's so tempting to make it about you and what you did wrong and how your body is and how your body isn't. And oh my gosh, bless the women who have seen a photo or know the other woman. Oh, the opportunity. Did that happen to you?
It happened to me. Yes. And this is a whole thing we can go down to. For me, my husband cheated with 5 different women who all were, and I hate to go here because it sounds like it's so skanky and judgmental, but it's not. They all outweighed me by a good 20 to 50 pounds. They stereotypically, traditionally were much less attractive than I was, were much less educated than I am, were so much objectively, quote unquote, less. And again, I hate to do that value judgment, like more or less, blah, blah, blah. It's just that when you look at the picture and you see somebody who outweighs you by about 50 pounds and who you go, if he thought that was better than me, how much lower must I really be? Because I didn't think I was that bad. And I think that is really bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of a flip, isn't it?
That's a flip because I was thinking about it in the other direction, like seeing somebody who you deem as more attractive and like what a mental game that would be. But thinking about it the other way of just like, whoa, what? And this is a perfect example of taking that personally. Like, what and is wrong with me? Is it my energy? Is it my being loving? Like, who am I being as a wife? And, maybe there's a photo involved, maybe there's a knowing of the other person involved, and maybe you just have the pure imagination, whatever your imagination conjures involved. And, I want to speak to the heart of the woman who's trying to turn on that sensual energy, who wants to feel sexy in her body, who feels like it's been a long time since she felt that. And I would say the number one place to start is like, don't take this incident personally, and know that you're sexy. And it sounds maybe a little cliche, but it is so much about the vibration of sexy that you are holding. So do something every day to practice it, whether it's looking in the mirror and acknowledging and appreciating yourself. Go shopping and wear an outfit that you feel really good in. Start a new eating protocol where you're getting high vibrational foods where you can start to feel your body shift in a really good way, because oftentimes weight is something that women deal with. We're either gaining or losing weight and feeling like our body is shifting, and our body goes through many different changes and seasons in its life and takes on different shapes in different decades and seasons. And when we are loving our body, and we can feel good about going to that yoga class, and we can feel good about going on that long nature walk, it starts to slowly change the vibration, because you feel good on the inside and then it starts to emanate. And then all of a sudden you go dress shopping, you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been this size in 5 years. Like, what? I'm fitting into an 8, or I'm fitting into a 6, I'm fitting into a 4, I'm fitting into a 14, whatever the size is. I'm becoming more of myself. And that is the journey of sensuality. That is the journey of sexy right there.
Yeah. Becoming more of myself. I love that. I think that's amazing. And then the other word in your book is free. And that's such a loaded word in a way, like sexy, because we all want to be free, as in we all want to have autonomy and agency over ourselves. But at the same time, like you said, so often we want to be loved. So what does it mean to you to be free, to truly be free?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Laura, I feel so extraordinarily blessed for this life that I'm living. I get to I have so much choice. I have so much choice. I feel kind of guilty about it sometimes. I'm working on that one. So after I lived in Mexico single during the pandemic, I met a group of really incredible women who were living on the island of Kauai, in the top of the Hawaiian island chain. This is just a small island with 70,000 people. And it is like heaven on earth. Have you been out to the islands, Laura?
Yeah.
I just turned into this like feral, naked waterfall woman eating the fruit of the ground. It was like this version of me, this archetype had always been in me, wanting to be expressed. And I got to live on that island for 14 months and heal and take care of my body and eat delicious fruits. And the last place I lived was on a 5-acre just estate oasis with over 50 fruit trees with a waterfall in the backyard. And it was stunning. I took a lot of videos there. I made a lot of content. I'm like, I need to preserve these memories. And getting to live where I want and do what I want. And I've really set myself up in this life financially to be able to make those choices. And I keep a Pinterest board called Everything on This Board Is. And it's kind of my wish list of the universe. And allowing myself to dream big. Like, what is my version of luxury? What is my version of having it all? And I remember and this board started about 7 years ago, and I would pin things on this board, like somebody saying, I made $20,000 last month blogging, or first class flights, or a best-selling book, or these things. And I would just hold the vibration and do the best that I could of staying in belief. Like, I am deserving, I am worthy. And I look at this board as like everything that I've wanted for my life, seeing it manifest. And for me, first class flights with a lay down seat all over Europe would have been like the most like material evidence of making it. In this summer, I was like, Jolie, we're going on the trip of a lifetime. We're going to 6 countries. We're going to Monaco. We're going to the south of France. We're going to Mary Magdalene's cave. We're also going to go to Tuscany and Ibiza and Glastonbury and Sweden, and anywhere you want, anything you desire, I've got you. So yeah, I'm 33 in this maiden season of my life, and I've really given my life force energy into entrepreneurship and setting myself up financially, and have sacrificed things and moments in order to do that. But the incredible joy of knowing that I can support myself and live in a home that I purchased for myself, and And my next phase of manifestation is a family, of course, and a really incredible partner and becoming a mother. And I'm in this really sweet period of time where I feel this maiden season of my life completing as I come into motherhood, and just trusting with full wild abandon of my heart that it's beyond what I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you just talk about that you're creating. It's up to you. You can envision it. You can take things on and off your Pinterest board. It's not like, oh, I put it on there, so now I have to follow through, even if I don't like it. That you get to decide, and that each season is different. I think that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you stay in the vibration of creation? Because I know that's hard for a lot of people. They'll say, well, this is what I want. And I recognize that maybe this wasn't the partner for me, and that I abandoned myself, and that it's time for me to find myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And they can make the Pinterest board and they can get rah excited for the moment, but then life really wears them down. Yeah. And 6 months later, it's like, I was going to do this and I forgot.
Mm-hmm. All right, listeners, I want you to listen up on this one and trust me on this one. Do not do your healing journey alone. Pay for and invest in help. Hire somebody and give your money to somebody who's going to hold you accountable and is going to help you heal and get you to the next level. I mean, there's just absolutely no way I would be where I am now if I didn't have the healers, the therapists, the medicine people, the team of experts that helped me get to a place that I couldn't have gotten to on my own. Because left to my own devices, I would maybe collapse on myself or go a lot slower or let myself off the hook for things. So yeah, I would say don't do this alone. Find your community, find your mentor, pay for help, invest in yourself because you are worthy and you deserve it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And especially, I know you do a lot with finances and abundance, especially around money. It's such a paradox because so often people will say to me, I can't afford, your services, or I don't want to invest in that because I don't know what's coming up. I don't know if I'm getting a divorce. I don't know if I can afford the house. I don't know if. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I get that you might need to be saving every penny. And if you invest, mm-hmm. you're also going to learn then how to manifest, how to create, how to heal, how to grow, how to make more money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see money as an infinite game. There's so much more where that came from. There's so much wealth in this world right now. So to the person that's like, I can't because it's a money thing, I just want to tell you, like, you actually can. You can figure it out. You're a very creative being. You have access. You have people in your life who love you. And if you're in the small percentage of like, I have maxed out absolutely every resource and I've been maxing out every resource, okay, it's a time to get creative and make some money and put some elbow grease into solving some problems for humanity so you can give back to yourself. But for the vast majority of people, you think you don't have the money. You think that there's scarcity all around you, and you forgot about that extra bank account. You forgot about the access to a credit card. You forgot. And everybody else's needs have come before yours. And when there's a reason why I'm bringing up this conversation of actually spending money on it, because putting your investment in something and energetically putting down your ticket for yourself is such a signal to the universe, to you, to your being, to your spirit, to life itself, that you're serious about this journey and you've got your butt on the line for something. It changes the way you show up to your healing. If you've invested money in it, you have something on the line for it. So I just want to encourage people, find your coach, find your healer, find your therapist. Please don't do this alone. Please don't suffer in silence. There are so many qualified people that will help you, that will hold you, that will love you, that will celebrate your progress with you, that will connect you to a community. And, I think the stigma of having a therapist or having a healer is so much less than it was a decade or two ago. And I just want to reiterate to people, you're worthy to invest in yourself. Trust yourself. You deserve it.
Yeah. And that goes back to the whole, being empowered to make the decision, free to make the decision. And it will, like you said, it's a signal to the universe that, hey, I am worthy. And it's not that you do the healing on Monday and then everything comes together on Tuesday. It is a journey. But yeah, you're right. There's the coaches out there, there's healers, there's therapists. There's such a wide variety of modalities out there. Yeah. So where can people learn more about you, whether it's this prosperity meditation or some of the journaling prompts or your book? Where can people learn more about you?
One of my favorite offerings is my Dare to Prosper challenge. So I created basically the internet's largest online prosperity gathering. It's called the Dare to Prosper Challenge. And I had studied and trained with a mentor for over a decade in how to do hypnosis and do hypnosis well. So it's very spiritual. It's kind of witchy. It's very deep psychic healing. So people wanting to have a profound breakthrough in their relationship with money, it starts from within. It starts with an energy and it starts with a belief in self. So it's a 10-day meditation process where we go into hypnosis every single day for 10 days. And we start to heal the wounds of scarcity, like lineage, like being in the mother's womb, like what was the first vibration around mom and being pregnant, what was her relationship like with money, and just going to the real root causes of where scarcity lives in the psyche as trauma, as pain. So that whole 10-day meditation challenge is at the daretoprosperchallenge.com, and the whole 10 days is just $55. It's a super steal. And if you think I'm interesting and you want to know more about Jolie Dawn, I basically chronicle my life every day on Instagram stories. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Jolie Dawn XO, JOLIEDAWNXO. And then all of my offerings are up to date on my website at joliedawn.com.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And I've read your book, but I have not done the meditation. And I too am a trained hypnotherapist. So I'm thinking I might do that. And then I might have to come back after those 10 days and report back to the listeners what my experience with it was like.
I'm so excited. Yeah, that sounds great. I love when other healers and hypnotherapists do it, because we all have our different methods and our way in, and it's fun to learn from each other.
It sure is. It sure is. And it's fun just to have growth. I think growth is fun, because I'm going back to what you said earlier, like trauma is bad. It's sad. It's, being a victim is hard, and it is still the greatest catalyst for growth we could ever experience.
That is it, Laura, right there. And I promise you, to whoever's listening, may this conversation, may it be medicine for your heart, and trust this, that even if it all feels really dark and broken right now, the character development that you're in and the woman that you're becoming, the being that you're becoming at soul level, I bow to you for the bravery of showing up to your life and showing up for this powerfully, because we can't always see it when we're in the weeds, and we definitely can't see it when we're in pain. And just give it time. Like Laura said, year 1 is so different than year 2. Give it time, give it patience, give it love. And you'll look back on this season and it will make sense. All of it will make sense from hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely. Hindsight truly is 2020, and the understanding is phenomenal. So thank you so much for being here, Jolie. It was a wonderful conversation, and I really think you are going to inspire women to reclaim their power, to feel that freedom, to have the ability to make choices going forward in their own lives.
You're wonderful, Laura. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you everyone for listening.
You're welcome. Listeners, I will post all of Jolie's links in the show notes. And as usual, have an amazing week. And always remember to flaunt exactly who you are, because who you are is always more than enough.
Tune in next time to Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love After Infidelity or Betrayal with radio host and life choreographer Lora Cheadle every Wednesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Develop naked self-worth and reclaim your confidence, enthusiasm, and joy so you can create a life you love and embrace who you are today. Download your free Sparkle Through Betrayal Recovery Guide at nakedselfworth.com.